Go to Kansas City for some Taylor Swift sightings.
Oh, yeah.
Which MLS players?
Yeah,
I was gonna say, what
date?
if Taylor Swift dated like
Wouldn't it be freaking epic?
Luquinhas?
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to, think of what would be the most epic, but I'm like actually blanking because there are no players anymore. The
J-Mi.
league doesn't
Yeah, it's
exist.
gonna be
J-Mi.
Although that would be age gap
Age gap
discourse.
You can do it. When the president does it, it's not illegal. Fucking, oh my God. I'm losing it. I'm losing my edge. I'm trying to think of, what is his name? Breck Shea. Wouldn't it be crazy
God.
if Breck Shea and...
Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is part of it that, like, even before this, Kelsey was like the most epic NFL player. He was the, craziest guy or whatever.
If we look back at when Bruce Arena was suspended and when Taylor Swift broke up with whoever, I'm just saying, it lines up well. Where has Bruce been?
It's Alex!
Episode 258, A View from 202. After 3 games, a draw.
Jam-packed deluxe episode coming to you.
A draw at NYCFC to, I guess, secure the Derby.
It's
title.
ours.
Yeah, it's ours.
Bragging rights across the city.
We won the Hudson
Red Bulls
River
fans,
Derby.
let your hair down, swing whatever you got around.
We did.
We're in charge on the streets.
We won the trophy that was created this year.
That's true.
This,
Yeah.
And a draw against Austin. And then the Red Bulls scored not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 goals against DC over the weekend. So that's two draws and a win in this last 2 weeks as we approach the this epilogue of the season.
Crunch time.
Because as we addressed last week was our postseason episode, our wrap up, because the season did spiritually die. But we have this nice little epilogue going here. Love it when the authors give a little bit of a
little coda
treat. Yes, exactly.
This is like the blooper reel post credits. This end of the season.
post credit scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like a deluxe EP, where they release the
bonus tracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like you get stereo and mono. This is kind of just...
You get the acoustic version.
So
this is the acoustic version of the season.
Yeah.
Red Bulls Unplugged.
First things first, there was the draw at Yankee Stadium. I did forget, this was the first one where we had a trophy, I guess. They didn't have us like dance around on the field with the trophy though. There was no what was the point of the trophy? Did they give it to us at any point?
Or was it just the supporters groups doing it? Is it like the supporters shield?
It is like the supporters shield, but it was on the pitch.
Yeah.
Was it?
It was there, like
Did the
at
players,
Yankee Stadium.
did
I
the
saw
players
it.
like superstitiously not touch it when they were walking on? And stuff
Maybe
like
maybe
that?
they were just giving it in the locker room after the game, but it was weird because obviously that ended up in such a like drab game. So it was like, oh, no one had any reason to celebrate. Also, it felt like kind of like we were talking about going into the season that this is the last meaningful game of the season, in that it's both teams are playing for the last scraps, kind of craps in the bucket, but really drawing out is the logical conclusion to that craps in the bucket mentality.
Yeah. Beautiful day out though.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Made it for a nice just hang, really. It was an odd environment. Oh, last thought on the trophy. So the trophy is like the torch from the
Statue of Liberty,
right?
yeah.
Learned recently that when we got the Statue of Liberty, apparently they sent it to us, but like we didn't have anywhere to put it yet, or like we knew we wanted to put on the island, but they're like, shit, so they had to like come up with the plan.
They sent it to Cleveland first, right?
They had to build the little like actual building at the bottom of it, but they had to like raise money for it because I guess the government basically didn't exist yet back then. The government didn't really, like
how the Washington Monument took like 100 years to finish or whatever.
So they raised money for it by they built just the torch part and they put it in Madison Square in Manhattan, and then they charge people nickel to take the stairs up to the top of it just in Madison Square, and there is enough money that way over a couple of years to actually build the base of it, and they finally built the Statue of Liberty. So
that's how they also built the Hudson River Derby trophy.
Yeah. Everyone mined 1 Bitcoin, or like 10,000th of a Bitcoin, and then they finally minted.
So years from now, we'll just get a full statue as the trophy.
Yeah. And maybe that's what they're gonna do to finally clear all the land in Willets Point too for City Stadium. They're charging people $5 to go up to the top of the vessel in Hudson Yards, but for some reason they haven't been getting any money for that. So I don't know what's going on with that. Been meaning to call someone about that. But yeah, it was a weird vibe. I don't know. I'm struggling to remember other recent derbies, but I mean, this actually did feel like sort of a hallmark derby for me in just how relaxed the vibe was.
How was your experience specifically?
It was good. It was odd because I was there on a date. It's a very different context than I'm usually in at derbies, usually with the away support. We were sitting one section right below the away support.
I'm waiting for it to be my turn to go on the Hudson River Derby date.
You're, ball's in your court. That can be the next derby if you try hard enough.
Oh no, it's too much pressure now.
Yeah, the nice. Well, now we have to get to the dirty part, which is that she's a Yankees fan, so she is familiar with Yankee Stadium already. Nice. So that made it less exotic to be introducing soccer here, but the fact that it was such a dead environment did make it a very kind of chill day out. I didn't even think about the fact that we're sitting right underneath the away support. And then Peaches, you mentioned at halftime when you came down that it's like, oh yeah, we're not really singing, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even notice that till now. But yeah, away support wasn't really very active. And, Third Ward's never that loud. They probably had about cumulative 20 minutes of making noise. They did spread it out a little bit, though, between, it's usually always the first 5 minutes of the match. And then this time they did chant for 10 minutes later in the match, more than usual.
They save Hey Baby for later, I think, these days.
Oh. But I don't know. And then it was, I felt like...
Well, to your point, it was so relaxed that at halftime I came down to your section.
Right.
From the supporters.
No coordinating off. Did they pen you up? No, you stayed with us. So you wouldn't know. I don't know if they penned people up afterwards, if they even bothered.
Well, there was only one concession stand that was open up there, and they ran out of beer at one point there too. So they were just like, okay, sure, you guys can go downstairs.
They didn't even crack my beers open for me. Wow. So I could have chucked it, but I guess that they're not on high alert anymore, which I guess is a good thing. I don't know if there was I didn't see any reports of any sort of hooliganism or anything like that.
I mean, it wasn't the type of game that warranted it
either. I saw somebody holding scissors somewhere.
Some nail clippers.
I saw somebody holding scissors 6 blocks away.
Some non-TSA.
In a bodega.
Yeah.
So watch out next derby.
But it
Hide your
was...
kids.
It was the kind of vibe where, at one point in the second half, some guys behind us were literally talking about their stock portfolios. So it was, yeah. But then even more broadly, the general vibe was very much people. There were people in city stuff, and there were even a surprising amount of people in Red Bull stuff around us. But generally, very much a vibe of people who know and like soccer, but are very agnostic about NYCFC and the Red Bulls. And the guy behind us, I remember being like, well, I guess neither of these teams really captured my allegiance today. But the free NYCFC glasses help, I guess. He was just joking. And that kind of felt like everyone who was there. And
it's like the same vibe as people like me, I should say, who are just like, oh, maybe I'll just go to a jazz club. I feel like I like jazz.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just, go to the local jazz club and just, vibe out for an afternoon.
Right.
And that seems to be what I'm not saying all City fans are that, but I think the general City crowd is more of that character than, say, the Red Bulls crowd.
They don't have an opinion on like bebop or like big band stuff.
Well, I mean, maybe they do, but they just, they don't know who's playing on stage in front of them. It's just generic jazz man.
Yeah, because the guys around us had very in-depth takes on like Arsenal and Man City. They just didn't really. They weren't like disrespectful because like a decade ago.
It wasn't like the Messi game.
Your average, no, but even just thinking like back to a decade ago and like the discourse of like,
MLS
Euro snobs. Like the average MLS fan, myself included, we would be way more on edge about this type of person being like, oh, this is like such poor quality. This is like so crappy. Like, and like that attitude seems less common now. But yeah, to your point, I do think City has always been, just by the fact of being in the most famous stadium in the city, like they have always been a little bit better or easier at like recruiting that type of person to just like wander into a game a little bit. But I just really felt like that was like 95% of the stadium this time, where like other derbies maybe were not as much that before.
I did not attend in person, but I have considered, mainly because I was late on. I left it last minute on getting supporters group tickets, and I had sticker shock when I found out how much they were. Which, by the way, what the fuck?
How much were they?
They're like $50.
Yeah,
really?
Like since when? Like, how did that even happen? I mean, we don't need to get into it because, I mean, we might not even know, but like maybe Steve or somebody does. But anyway, so I didn't end up going, but I have considered just getting like a StubHub seat and just going morning of, but I didn't. But that would have been the first time I've ever done in the neutral section in a derby game, and I would want to find the seat that Struber got caught sitting in at a City game inadvertently last year, and then he was surprised when I brought it up to him. But
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he apparently did not want to be seen there, and he was by some complete rando. So
that's funny. Yeah, weird environment. Really feels like the gas is really gone out of the derby right now.
I mean, yeah, the supporters weren't singing.
Well, is it symptomatic of just the two teams just being like really bad right now?
Yeah, it felt like
else?
It very much felt like, oh, like what do we have to give to this team? What will they give for us? At least from the Red Bull side, but
yeah, I mean, especially it's got to be even more of a problem, of an enthusiasm problem for the City crowd, kind of harkening back to stuff we've touched on in the last few minutes, where it's just like, even more than Red Bulls, when they're just having a mid-season and selling all their good players, losing their coach, all that kind of stuff. I feel like it should hit harder there when that happens, because their whole culture is so built on being like the hype big city, dick swinging team, whereas we've always been a little more, happy with our niche in the world. Whereas I feel like they should be even more like doomer about their situation, even though, on paper, we're both pretty much same place in the table.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for City, it's just this specter of the stadium or whatever. Will this churn?
Well, yeah,
change,
I mean, I'm sure
like...
that eases the wound somewhat, but then even that, it's still somewhat distant and not 100% in motion. So who knows?
Yeah. We talked about that a lot last episode too. But yeah, it is still bizarre to think that that's a team that's planning on spending that much money on a stadium in New York. It just doesn't add up. And, just reviewing their lineup again too, it's like...
Well, don't forget Maxi Morales is out for the season, so,
But like
I know that's the joke.
Like looking at these, like I guess James Sands and Keaton are really their main guys, and like Santi Rodriguez, and they picked up Pellegrini, I guess, because Miami was forced to release him.
And then Tavon Gray is just like just completely pedestrian player who somehow has stayed in their lineup for like 3 years now. Just never been impressed by him whatsoever.
The Talus Magno guy.
Right, but it feels fitting, and it feels kind of similar to us in some ways, that guy like doesn't even start for them.
Yeah.
And like it seems like maybe he scored a couple big goals
It doesn't
here
seem
or
like he's
there.
really meeting the hype that was established.
Right. They spent I mean, it feels kind of like a Van Zer situation maybe, where like they don't really remember why they bought him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I saw a single city jersey with like a current player.
Yeah, that
on
makes
it.
sense. Right.
Morales is probably the closest. I honestly don't count that because,
Right.
you know,
But that jersey probably was from like 2015 or something.
or like
2017,
18, you know, or something. So bizarre situation.
Which is like, I guess to City's credit, most of a lot of the jerseys I see are like their first or second season. So a lot of them must be like day ones, you know?
When I see, there are a couple of people on the train with a Pirlo jersey on, and that always strikes me as really funny, but I can never put my finger on why. Like, I don't know. It's just like, he doesn't have, it's not quite as obvious as a punchline as Lampard, actually Lampard did end up playing quite well for them when he did play for them, but it's just like really like that. He really left no mark for them. Dare I say we did look better for whatever that counts.
Then City.
Yeah, they're dreadful. Like
Yeah.
what? And I was trying to, I was explaining the game a bit, because my date is a baseball person, not a soccer person.
And also you just love mansplaining.
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, of course. How do you think I got the date in the first place?
So true.
Yeah. And I was able to go in a bit like, okay, this is kind of the contrasting styles of like high press versus like City being more like wanting to draw out the other team in possession. I felt like I was constantly caveating, like, okay, it would have been more intense 4 years ago. Like 4 years ago would have been a better example of this. But
just watching on TV, it was a pretty brutal game. I mean, just like neither team was really able to like link anything together. It felt a step beyond a normal, just like trash quality
Yankees
game on
Stadium.
that tiny field. Yeah,
Right.
it just felt like the teams were literally like crashing into each other the whole game.
Right.
There was like
yeah.
one good opportunity.
Manuel, I feel like.
Was it Manuel? Yeah.
Manuel had a one-on-one, yeah.
Or what about the one with didn't Omir take a shot in the box? And it was a
Manuel
goal?
tried to chip the keeper like
six,
three,
four
times, yeah, in the first half.
That didn't pop up, but yeah,
Omir
Omir had
was
one
second half,
saved.
yeah.
And that was like the closest to like actually scoring.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, I think the Manuel chance was arguably better, but
Manuel seemed surprised by it.
yeah. Unfortunately, I had a Manuel chance at DSA League the next day, and I missed that with my left
Oh
foot.
no.
So you can't talk. Damn.
It was left-footed, though, you know what? Like, so it's
I do think we were able to press them somewhat effectively, but just didn't have the clinical speed and focus to actually break them down. And yeah, it ended up in a pretty dull game. I don't think I was ever legitimately worried that they were going to score on us, though. And I don't, in hindsight, I can't remember anything either. It would have been a game where if we lost, it would have been just on a mental error on like a corner or something like that.
I think I'd already coped or pre-coped and, decided that everything there is a little illegitimate anyway, right? So it was like, if something went in, it probably would have happened by some kind of like weird happenstance.
Yeah.
That weird patch where they like fill in between first and second base
Seemed worse than usual.
Yeah, like it felt like the ball really died there more than previous games.
Yeah,
maybe, but
and maybe it was because I was sitting closer this time, but this time it felt much more noticeable that players on both teams seemed to be much more like preemptively hesitant about running in that section. Like there were a couple times where I saw Tolkien like definitely like slowed down a little bit more cautiously than he might have on another thing, and it just does not help the game be an entertaining thing to
there's
watch.
there's no way that whatever solid they're putting on takes root or anything. Like there's
No,
I mean,
they
so
wouldn't.
it's like,
They
right.
almost certainly put a tarp
Over
underneath
the-
it
yeah.
to ensure that it doesn't.
So it's so like
Yeah.
there's no way for there to be traction.
No, No. It's actually I'm impressed that it doesn't come up even quicker.
More,
like
yeah.
So we were at the Yankees game on Sunday, Cork and I didn't even realize till you pointed out how bad the baseball diamond looked as a result. I mean, you could still see the lines, but like they have along
like a
the
dark
edge,
patch like around the edge of the infield for baseball that just looks like shit. I mean, like I was just saying, I mean, I'm not a Yankees guy, but like if I was a Yankees fan, like some people on this podcast, I would be kind of pissed about that. Like, for this, like, the average Yankee fan probably doesn't even know that City's like totally mid right now, but this shitty soccer team
just
ruining my
destroying.
field every week. I'd be pissed.
Are they still in the hunt?
No,
they're out.
Okay, they're out
eliminated
too.
yesterday.
Yeah, you think you guys were? Yeah, you were at the game.
Yeah, we
and they
saw
got
it
knocked
happen.
Did you cheer?
We were mostly really cold, so we kind of bucked out of
Got
there
it.
immediately. But yeah, I guess we win. I will say it is nice that we still take care of business with our rivals, even when we're terrible. We haven't totally bottomed out, I guess, to be a little bit more upbeat about it. But really, City, even worse looks over there. I don't envy their position.
They'll be all right.
Yeah.
I don't care if they are or not, though.
It's also like I don't really know how to diagnose their problem. Back to the whole thing about the stadium. Like, what is going on with us? By that token, what is going on with them? But what is going on with us?
That was a slip.
Right. Austin, midweek at home, 1-1.
We were saying how when you turned on the highlights, because both Cork and I were at that game, I had forgotten, or like my body had not thought that had taken place in this plane of existence. It was like a Berenstain Bears Mandela effect, kind of.
Right.
There's a fan base that's energized despite a mid-season. They had a full-on away section. They were like one of the bigger crowds in the whole league.
That's true. They brought more people
as
than
far
Philly.
as away crowd. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
Really?
that's
Yeah.
Is Austin like a thing where they have like fans in Brooklyn the way the Timbers do or whatever now?
That wouldn't
What about
surprise
it?
me.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm legit asking, and it could just also be like the pipeline between Brooklyn and Austin.
The
but-
uppy cities.
right? But
The Nashville
they had
exchange.
They were
Two old
rolling
roommates from
deep.
Austin. So
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like once the team gets started, you're like, oh,
There was a
sure.
random group of people in Austin and Charleston when I was living there. Like, I don't know. They're like the Australians of the US.
all the
now.
millennial
Yeah.
exodus cities.
It's interesting because I think of Austin as being a place where every young person in Texas goes to like escape for their 20s. So like everyone has like a Texas identity there, and like has an Austin transplant identity, but it doesn't really scan for me that they would move somewhere else and then been really attached to Austin FC in only a couple years.
Maybe it's like maybe when you put it like that, maybe it is like a catch thing for expat Texans,
Right.
Who are hip in other cities and like, weren't around to get into like FC Dallas or Houston.
Right.
But now that this is coming up and soccer's like, now mainstream, they're just like, oh, I'm from Texas. I want to be into the Texas soccer team. And this is the
That's
first
true.
opportunity really thrown in front of them.
Yeah, God knows how many lifelong Miami fans we saw.
Well, that's a different thing.
yeah,
That's
also there
that's
might-
a totally different thing.
There might be San Antonio people who have picked up Austin too,
Right.
because that's the kind of thing where like your only options really are the Spurs, or I guess if you're getting really into UT sports, but
Is there a hockey team down there?
the Stars, but like which I do think have like a Texas cross Texas
Pan-Texas
thing.
thing.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I could see it that way. Also, because both Dallas is like 96 Doldrums Club, like all the others. Houston is like the closest thing you can kind of get to that, even though they're sort of climbing out of it. It's definitely not fashionable to be a Dynamo fan.
Are they the Mets?
No, I don't know.
Like an early
It's-
expansion.
Oh, maybe.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If like Austin definitely has the most like Atlanta type energy to it, of like, doubling as sort of a emblem for being like, this is a big serious city now. Like everyone has to respect it. Cool things happen here.
Right.
There's a film industry here. Okay. A big deal. Call me when your city kicks out the film industry to go somewhere else. All right. Yeah, 1-1. Any memories of this game?
No.
Possibly. Well, hey now, it might have been Dante Van Zier's farewell performance in New York.
Which, like him would be, for me, something I would try to press out of my mind, I guess.
Lumbar spine injury.
You got to have a lumbar to play soccer.
Yeah.
It's important.
After scoring a goal off of
Another
Off a
volley.
volley again.
Yeah. Although they did actually, he did not score the goal.
It's an only goal, yeah.
It was an own goal because it was not on target. Only volleys. Did they have a prognosis for how long he's out?
Just the season, all right.
The whole season, the whole
my
3
God.
weeks left.
Yeah.
He's gone.
That also sounds like the kind of thing that might hurt you for the rest of the year or the rest of the career.
Yeah.
Back
A
injury, not
lumbar
good.
spine injury.
Yeah.
He's in his 20s. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Just get him a Herman Miller chair.
Take him to Sharper Image.
Wait, so do you think there's a chance he leaves already in the offseason?
I actually don't. I mean, that seems to be like a knee-jerk thing if you ever go on like the subreddit or, wherever, whatever forum you choose. To be like, oh yeah, well, yeah, they're gonna get rid of him. It's like, I don't know, don't be so sure with this fucking club.
Yeah.
Like,
That would be nice.
They only ship out strikers if the manager needs a scapegoat, as we know, and it doesn't seem like Troy's too interested in throwing him under the bus, nor does he seem to have the power to do so if he wanted to. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose who knows what the regime is going to be next year, but I suppose. Again, famous last words because they decided to take the loss on Klamala after a year and a half, but it just seems like too onerous of a contract to just move off after 1 year. But yeah, who knows? Maybe they do arrange a loan or something.
It does feel like
He's an older player. He's like 26 now, so he's not as much of upside sort of sale that you could make. So
it feels like if there is any validity to like any sort of pressure MLS is like putting on the New York market to have like in more investments in players when you have somebody going into their second year injured with like an unknown sort of like timeline. I could see that as almost being like almost like a catalyst to try to offload them and just start from complete scratch. But
well, maybe that's part of the Schneider / de Grand Prix decree that they're going to spend money this winter is that they'll spend money to move guys off the books, also Steve Cohen style. But
Yeah.
we'll see how that takes shape. I mean, I don't know.
Todd Bowley style.
In a vacuum, a player like Von Zier, much like I felt about Klamala, should be given another year, maybe two, to show what he can do and just be part of the team. But who knows what direction the team's going to be going in next year, whether they're going to just go all in on another rebuild or if they're going to try and put lipstick on the current pig, or who knows. But
was he not getting minutes in the games leading up to that because of the injury?
He's not been a first choice starter. It's all been such a fog this year, and it's salad as far as where it's been established for years now at the club that it's hard to tell when somebody's injured or doghoused or what. But yeah, he's not been a every week starter for a while now, even since he's come back and gotten into fitness from the suspension.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say his 15 goal has not been met.
Yeah.
Corey Burke has also kept up the club tradition of going off to international competition and just sort of vaguely disappearing. It's like, maybe he needs to get fit again because he was just playing soccer, and you can't just keep playing soccer after you were playing soccer. You have to do something else in between, especially if you're joining a club. So who knows? I mean, also all of the administrative capacity of the club will be tied up in setting up a 6-week loan for a new $1 million Colombian striker.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of,
Juan Jose Mina is here.
did he play?
Mina.
Cabezas Hurtado played.
Yes, Hurtado played.
You saw him with your own eyes.
I've seen him a couple times now.
A couple times?
I think so, yeah.
A couple times.
Exactly.
I've seen him.
He actually looks pretty good, to be honest. It's like it's every time I've seen him, I was like, oh, this would be a good guy to keep. But he's on loan for 4 months or whatever. So,
maybe I just have not been watching, but I don't know if you've seen him in the flesh a couple times.
I think so, yeah.
He exists.
He
looks
multiple minutes.
He's got Sturridge vibes.
That's right. That's what you said during the game.
He looks a lot like Daniel Sturridge. He's had like the same kind of body frame, same haircut. He rolls his socks down a bit. We'll see if he does the dance if he ever scores a goal.
Which also made us realize that our current kit configuration is like Liverpool colors. Which
that's right. Yeah. I think that's part of why I don't like this current red jersey in general, but I especially don't like combined with red shorts and red socks that it's basically a Liverpool kit.
Yeah, we need to bring the white back a little bit. Does Liverpool have a yellow kit right now too?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They kind of alternate.
It kind of feels like Liverpool should always have a yellow kit.
But I don't know. I have a suspicion that, because I mean the line is that MLS jerseys get planned like 2-3 years in advance, that somebody in the kitchen was like, oh, well, Liverpool just won Champions League. They're the hot team. What if we just made full Liverpool colors? And here we are 3 years later.
Well, if we have our Sturridge, we could have our own SAS where Suarez is Van Zier because racist. There you go. It's right there. It's our own
there it is.
SAS.
It was right there.
Remember that? To all the Zoomers on the listening to the podcast, SAS was I don't know. Do you think there's a Wikipedia page for that? Probably not. Strike partnerships. It used to be a thing. You used to buy players after they'd played somewhere before. They would play matches for a club, and then you would purchase them. What a time. Yeah, we haven't actually talked about this as much, but I think it's worth revisiting just how strange it is that this club has continued its tradition and even gotten more extreme at signing these short-term loan guys that then take forever to join the team and are here for 3 matches. Because
it just seems to be skittishness about the summer window and just making permanent signings then. I guess Thelwell came out and was explicit about it when he was here, that they just see the winter market as a better place for MLS teams to get players, both because you have a whole preseason to get them settled in, and you're also teams in Europe are starting to reshuffle their deck mid-season and figure out who their excess weight is or whatever, so you can kind of smack that piñata a bit. But even still in the summer, that's kind of happening a little bit. And it just seems like it doesn't seem to stop other MLS teams from going ahead and making signings and, just letting them have a weird half season to settle in. Whereas with us, we just think, we just always, through a few different, executive regimes now, always want to get too clever with these summer signings. And they usually end up being, weird loans like this.
And the just literal administrative processing for all of these seems to have always taken so long. I mean,
these two in particular were very weird in that they took until the fact that they took until deadline day is damning within itself, because that implies that there was no real plan going into this window. There were no targets identified who they could have laid the groundwork for and gotten going, well before the deadline, which is what Red Bull's supposed to be. That's what we always hear, is that Red Bull has this advanced, rubric and scouting network and whatever, and they know exactly what they want, and it's not that expensive, and they can just go out and get it. Yeah, right. We're having all of these slap together deadline things lately. So that's that within itself is weird. But these particular guys, they're just loanees from these. Watford in particular is basically just like a third party transfer agency, just a clearinghouse for just speculating on prospects and buying up bad contracts from other teams. And the fact that it's that and that it's two Colombians, like, it just screams that, Dennis Hamlet or whoever just ran to the league office during the last few days of the window and was just like, can you just throw something together for me? Like, just I need to say that I made a signing.
Yeah,
that's just what these signings scream. And then obviously, they were so slapped together and so 11th hour that they needed another month to do like the visa paperwork and stuff. And now we're gonna get like 4 games out of them. And it's been a long-term trend like Brit led off with, but this has been a particularly slapdick version of it.
Right. And we say Colombian here, but also because it seems to be the latest wave of like MLS recruit attention. Like before there was the Polish league, a lot of guys like Lukinius were coming over, and Klimala before Celtic was in Poland, of course, too. And then, there's
Romanian before that.
Romania was also like, although that seems to be maybe more of a Red Bulls and Hamlet specific fixation. But, everyone was kind of like honing on Uruguay and Argentina for a second. Argentina for a little bit more. Venezuela. Yeah, that's the one I was trying to think of. But yeah, there were also very few leaks this time, which, I mean, I guess there was maybe 1 or 2 tweets before it happened, but that also kind of feels a little sad. And like usually there's a bit of buzz before these transfers. It seems like this current iteration of the Red Bulls front office seems very interested in like there being no leaks. Like there's been a couple tweets from team personnel being like, and this didn't leak. And I'm like, is that good? I feel like it means no one was interested in you. Like I feel like teams intentionally leak things for a reason a lot of times, but
or it wasn't worth leaking.
Right. Yeah. But
we had a Kitchen Nightmares on the TV at the studio during this, and I just can't help but think that I was originally thinking a Gordon Ramsay type of person to just like come and fix all the club up, like all the little details or whatever. But maybe it should just be Gordon Ramsay. He did, do the Rangers Academy thing, right?
Well, he's from the same part of the country as Kevin Thelwell, apparently. So maybe we have that.
Sporting director Gordon Ramsay could save this club.
Last thing on the loans is that I'm just thinking back to like 2016-ish too, where like I think it's sort of a barometer of like how the vibe and context of the club shifts with differing results. Because like we had our own version of that way back then, where like, you bring in Omer Damari for a couple matches and like he doesn't really get here, doesn't really play until the end of the season. But like back then it felt a little bit more understandable because it's like, oh, the team is like on a roll here. Like they're busy. Like you can't just like throw things into the mix and like screw up the team chemistry too much. And
it's just like a low stakes peripheral signing.
Right. Like purely luxury like type thing. And it kind of took forever. But then as we were talking about this, I remember 2016 was also when we brought in Sean Wright Phillips on a loan. But that was kind of funny because like he was training with the team and everyone was like, are you signing him? And they're like, oh, I don't know for like 3 months. And they finally signed him and he didn't end up playing that much. But part of me now is also like, what took you guys so long to like make up your mind on whether you're going to do that or not? Like,
well, that kind of reminds me of something that occurred to me while watching the Austin game, but then it came up again after the game we're going to get to in just a moment, the DC win, when Omir Fernandez was getting a lot of plaudits, that the way you just said that, Britt, about like, back in the day, a signing like Omer Damari on a loan was just like kind of a like complimentary piece to a team that was already chugging. He didn't have to be like, some huge gambit that the season rested on. Whereas now, we have so many players, permanently on this team, players who have been in the squad for a few years, who are obviously going through bad seasons with the Red Bulls and going through a bad patch in their career, but they're players who would be so much more useful and productive if they were like kind of cogs in a well-working machine, as opposed to, Omir Fernandez in particular having to, kind of impersonate a number 10 through a lot of this year and the last couple of years, or somebody like, even a fullback is always a peripheral player, but somebody like Tolkien could, flourish even more if there was an actual midfield for him to trail off of. There's a few different guys who even Von Zer is a type of player where in a functioning attack where, he maybe has a bigger target guy to play off of, or, just a number 10 to feed him balls so he can make runs off of. Just so many different players who would be so much better served, who and this is just part of my general thing where people just pretend like, Red Bulls are just, the worst players and they're just supposedly such a quality below the rest of the league, which is almost never true. And this in particular, I think this team, the 2023 Red Bulls, I think is the weakest. Well, it's the closest to that is kind of what I was saying, where it's like, it's definitely the weakest squad top to bottom that, they've had probably since the arena opened. But within that, there's still a lot of players who would be such great role players in a good team that I hesitate to say that, the personnel is the reason why the team's, failing. It's obviously a failure of leadership and team building and management and all that kind of stuff. Because I think there's a lot of talent that has a higher level to reach if they were playing not only in a better team with, more clear roles, but just, with more, stakes to the games, with more kind of energy to feed off of. That's part of why having seasons like this suck and should be avoided, that you see players kind of regress even when they shouldn't be at that point in their career. It's just kind of inevitable with, the atmosphere that takes hold in seasons like this. So maybe they're telling the truth about signing some bell cows this offseason because they need them, and some of the other players on this team need players to take the pressure off them.
Yeah,
these are guys like Reyes, Amaya, Tolkien.
Well, I think Reyes is one of the few guys who could be more of like a protagonist himself.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Cameron Harper.
I think true. But surely being a center back too, you look worse by being on a bad team.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Right.
But I think he's one of the few tentpole players if we hold on to him. But yeah, Omir for sure. I mean,
Cornell.
Omir, I think scoring those 2 goals up at Santos away until before it all fell apart, I think is like a good glimpse at like a different. Or he might have just only scored 1. That opening goal in Torreon in that Santos series, I think, was a glimpse of like an exciting future we might have for him, where he was not the main guy in that squad, but like was a dangerous option as a role player there, instead of having to be the main guy, like Cork was saying. And we talked a lot about that in the 2021 season too, where like after Struber gave up on the diamond, and then it was like we were starving for any sort of creative play, like the final month of the season. It was like, oh yeah, Omir exists, and they kind of threw him in there, and it's like, we love Omir, but it's not that hard to find that type of player. He's not super unique. But yeah, it also brings the question, like, what is the point of bringing in Cabeza, Hurtado, and Mina right now? Like, because also when we used to do these loans, we used to do like kind of with the intention to buy, even if it wasn't officially part of it. Like Murillo, we bought him. Escobar, we could have bought him if we wanted to. Didn't end up being the move.
Tete.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's one of the funnier ones.
But like these guys, I don't know. Like what is
Branson.
It almost seems like a muscle memory thing to bring in these guys. And it just seems so confusing because it's like, yeah, by the time they get here, they're going to play like 4 games in a season that's lost. I guess like when they were working on these transfers, they thought they were probably still more in it, but like it doesn't like what is the point of bringing in this guy? I don't know. Like what is,
he's only taking minutes away from guys who you have on your books permanently, where you might want to see what you can get out of them.
Yeah.
Which, like, also, if he is cool, that sucks. Like if he's good, we don't really have much leverage there.
Right. Well, speaking of Amir, last game to wrap up tonight is that 5-3 win at DC.
The season is back. We're so fucking back. The team is back.
Dare I say that I think we are so fucking back. The boys are back in town. gonna
Not playing.
go to the jukebox. And we did play that on an episode once. I can't remember what for. Just like
Yeah,
as a sting in
a
the
little thing,
background.
yeah.
Yeah. Can't remember the amount of irony that was happening.
Can do the Cardigans cover of it this time.
Well, I think at that point we were less dour, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought that was a fun game.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's nice to have a fellow cellar mate in DC.
Yeah.
And is it just me, or is a high proportion of our games with them in the last 5 years like really ugly, like weather games?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we fucked
Even
up.
the opener at Audi, when we like the first game.
Yeah, when like
fucking-
a pipe fell on someone's head or something. Oh my god.
The game that we went to and Peaches and I went to in person last year, the field was all like puddly and shit.
Right. It was like raining before.
I guess there's also the like rained out away game, like playoff game we went to in 2016.
That's right.
15,
Yeah,
16.
I mean,
2012, you know, that was weather too.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty well known by now that DC has just like a nightmare climate. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like among other reasons why it's the worst city in the world. That's one of them. But
yeah. So I guess maybe this was a bit of fan service, I guess, this game. Got Christian Benteke a hat trick. Do you feel very validated by that, Peaches?
I do. He's
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah, big man.
He's a big man. I should take notes. You know, I need to score more of Christian Benteke goals and do less Elias Manuel type misses.
Yeah. Who was that manager where like they zoomed in on his notes on the side and just said shoot?
Paul Ince.
That was Paul Ince. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I mean, I imagine Waz's notes for this are just hoof it to the big lad, right? It worked.
I mean, yeah. Well, we saw this last time we played DC, but he was totally manhandling Sean Nealis.
Yeah.
I guess one last note on the Austin game, real quick, just because we're talking about coaches. But first off, all the Messi fans that Marc de Grandpré was bragging about didn't quite make it out for this Austin game. Didn't seem to maintain their loyalty, and it was maybe the deadest atmosphere I've ever seen for a regular season
At Red Bull
game.
Arena.
Yeah.
At RBA, like, and the reason the coaches, y'all talking about coaches, reminded me is because you could literally hear
the coaches
you could
yelling.
hear Lassane and Wolf's every instruction all game long.
It's
But,
giving like
yeah.
Open Cup vibes.
Yeah,
No,
but-
worse, honestly.
right. But go ahead back on Waz, the Waz show.
Wait, is this the game where did Troy get a yellow card?
He was suspended for the Derby. He got a yellow card the game before the Derby.
Oh, okay.
I think he got another one, right? Because he got
Right.
he left his
There was a
box.
yellow.
one,
There was a
yeah.
yellow for the bench.
I saw that.
unquote,
Yeah, that was
at
for
one point
Troy.
during the Austin game.
Well, I know
So-
the team Twitter account has continued to like post like no matter what, like, oh, I guess that's not a red card, or like, oh, you know, like every time I'm like, can you have some fucking dignity, please?
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure that helps gets the ref on our side.
Yeah,
too.
like, can you just like act like a goddamn adult? Sorry, but
Benteke was like manhandling Nealis in this game, like he was last time we were playing DC. That matchup is just not, you know, like even in that physical matchup, you know, you could see who's winning there. But I think more notably on like at least two of the goals, Kyle Duncan was sent flying on sheer just contact with Benteke a couple of times. But I mean, it also just goes to show that if you have an experienced striker who has confidence and belief that they can get to a ball and score goals, that they sometimes will because they've seen it been done at the highest level. You know, I think we could really use a guy like that.
yeah,
Well, DC could have used more of it because we won the game.
No,
I don't think the story of the game is Christian Benteke beat us, but yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, but like,
you know how Christian Benteke learned it? It's from the specific training sessions he had when Thierry Henry was his coach as a Belgium striker coach. You know, it's like those like 4 hours every 2 months.
as the assistant coach.
Yeah, as a strikers coach, you know, that's really what put him over the edge. But yeah, this is a very much a rain game. I think when we were reviewing the highlights again here, we were saying that a lot of these goals are just from a, you know, not very good team with not much to play for, just not defending on set pieces. That's DC that we're talking about.
Which is funny because during the goal that Cam Harper had scored, I was like, oh, that kind of looks like another team scoring against us. So
first goal was nice.
First goal was very nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
It was that cross that Kyle Duncan always attempts to do, but, Cam Harper actually.
See, that's funny because I feel like Kyle Duncan does that a couple times a year, and it always seems like a mistake to me. Where he's like, oh, I guess I should cross it. I've never thought about what that would look like. And he sort of like toe pokes it,
Right.
Yeah. It is weirdly effective, though.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just part of why, to add to my little spiel a minute ago, that I think Harper would be is a type of player, has a skill set that would be so much better served not having to be a fullback, not having to come up from that far, being able to more kind of pick his spots and make his runs in the final third, as opposed to, having to bust his lung to even get there in the first place. But yeah, very, very, very good goal. Rare example of a well-worked goal from the run of play this season. So I guess there was that novelty to this game, in addition to just, scoring more than one goal at all. But like Brit said, I mean, just sort of the opposite of a 6-pointer, I suppose. Just two teams who are kind of out of it, just sort of playing a Sunday league game, and it ends up 5-3.
Yeah, I guess if this were if we had relegation, it would be a 6-pointer.
Yeah.
But
other results kind of went in our favor, which is, obviously very demeaning to even talk about other results.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, seasons could still win MLS Cup.
well,
Could still do it.
I mean, this is what I mean, though. It's I feel like kind of sneaking in there and just, being a little bit of a spoiler is always fun. But, it's there's a good a chance as any to win any year, especially if they've made it this big of
is there, though? Is there?
Oh, I mean, honestly, given how things go with this, maybe this is the team,
I'm not holding my breath.
No, I mean, I'm not holding my breath on it, but Colorado won in 2010.
Well, we've had this conversation the last few episodes where we legitimately felt that way in 2021, but that's not what's happening right now.
Yeah. All I know is that if we end up in a fucking away playoff game in Philly, I'm not going to be in attendance.
Not going to this one.
No, absolutely not.
It would be funny though if Juan Jose Mina turned out and it just changed our season entirely.
As a left back.
Yeah, exactly.
Backup left back.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe we just put Tolkien as a defensive midfielder instead, and just have Mina boss it from the left back position.
Mina.
We're in 11th right now, 3 points out. I guess City won over the weekend, so that put them into a playoff place, which is wild.
DC is above us, right?
Yeah. So wait, we're 3 points out with 4 to play. 4 matches to play. Oh shoot, I was gonna do a pop quiz and make you guess how many matches we had left in the season.
It's impossible to get a positive record this season.
And tell folks at home, what do you mean by positive record?
More wins than losses.
Yeah, it's pretty grim. Not great.
But we can get an even record this season if we win out.
Yeah. 4 games left in the season, which feels like a lot.
There's an international break in the middle of it too.
Oh,
Not to sweeten it even more.
There's only 4. There's an international break. Why?
There's an international break between the last 2 games of the season.
Yeah, they're gonna come back. They're gonna come back just to play
Decision Day.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
My God, come on. We're playing.
But everybody on Apple says it's great. So
yeah, Chicago, Cincinnati, Toronto, and Nashville.
the gauntlet.
Yeah. Hey, this is the first time in a while where we're not going to be playing another Northeast team.
Yeah.
If I swear to God, somehow this season, despite
Toronto's
being
kind of Northeast,
the first season since COVID, I think, where it's been just nice 2 games each for your conference opponents. It felt like every week was like Philadelphia, New England, DC, City. Philadelphia, New England, DC City over and over again. The fact that Leagues Cup became that was so fucking ridiculous. It was like unbelievable that happened. That, and then what? We played Nashville, and did we play Nashville and like San Luis or something?
Put San Luis and New England.
Yeah. And then Philly.
And then Philly.
And City, I guess. Okay, yeah. Well, Saturday, September 30th. Oh, a home game. Wow.
We have home games left?
Yeah, against Chicago. We have 2 home games.
We're not playing 4 road games to end the season.
Oh, yeah, I feel like we've had so many home games.
Yeah.
Both the easier games are at home, right?
Yeah.
And then
Toronto,
Yeah.
Cincinnati, and Nashville.
Toronto, we're
are
done,
away.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, no way.
Since you're pretty good.
I think it fits the general situation of this season that Saturday at Chicago, and a not very good team, a team right below, it's tied on points with us. Even this, you cannot say is a must win. Because if we lose, it's like, I don't know, we probably will still have a chance of getting the 9th seed if you really want it. There's 9 seeds. In case you hadn't caught on yet, too many. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. If it were 7 right now, the season, I guess like maybe that's what they see out of it. Like the season would be over pretty much. And they were like, oh, maybe we'll gin up some excitement. At what cost?
I'm kind of getting excited. Just a little bit.
Really?
All right.
A little bit. After the
No,
DC
you're
game.
just saying that.
Well, it's just like, because that game was like, oh, that's a lot of goals. We haven't scored that many goals. I'm sure we won't do it again, like the next game we see.
You're getting a little too deep into the gamer industry. You're identifying with your customers too much.
Well, no, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, it's like what you were saying after the Austin game, where it's like, oh, there's like no, it's like I'm almost wanting to root for the team because there's nothing left, you know.
Post zone?
Yeah.
I was post zone did not mean that I was excited about watching the team.
Yeah, but like, you're still rooting for your own team, you know? Like,
It did
I'm
not.
like-
It did not actually. It meant that I just don't have anxiety about the result at all.
Sure.
It's the opposite of being excited about what's going to happen.
I mean, like insofar as like, oh, like the like winning this game isn't like bad for this team, and then kind of like, you know, like I'd rather want to see this team win at this point than lose.
I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm glad you're having fun.
I mean, yeah. Like, what else am I gonna do with this team? Like, at least like at this point, like we made, like, to your point, like what you're saying, like it's designed to like have some kind of meaning towards the end of this kind of meaningless season. Like, oh, maybe I will get up for these last few games.
I guess I feel manipulated. I feel like I've been made a fool if I care about the 9th seed here. I feel like we should aspire and expect better. But like from the league,
you know, like,
I see what you mean. Like, but like,
we're
you know,
past that.
from
Like,
the league,
I don't have to argue that we should be better at this point, but
right?
Like, you know, maybe
obviously the team should be better, but also like if the league expects me to like be foaming at the mouth about the race to number 9.
I'm not excited.
The funny part, it's not even number 9 in the fucking league. Number 9 in the conference.
Yeah.
And the conferences have like fucking 15 teams now.
Yeah.
It's just nothing. I remember when there was a debate, like when I was in fucking high school about when there were like 12 teams in MLS, where it was like, is 6 teams making the playoffs, cheapening the league? And it's like, fucking would die to have that sort of debate now compared to what we're now dealing with.
When we started this podcast, it was 6 teams in each conference, and it fit so well. It fit so well. It was actually the same format as the NFL.
With the two
buys. Yeah. But now the NFL has ruined its perfect numerology. That's really when I turned off the NFL, when it committed
What's the point of having 32
sins.
teams if you're not going to have a perfect postseason?
I know,
tournament?
17 games. Disgusting. They'll be smited for this.
But I think there is like, I don't know, like a lot of people are willing to finish the season. I guess I'm just a little addicted to trying to lengthen the season or like wanting to see more soccer from my team.
You want to see more of the 2023?
I don't want to see more of this team, but I always want to see more of like my team play.
I guess,
you know,
maybe to square the circle. And speaking to the post zone or not distinction, in previous iterations of this team, I think, you know, the question of like, oh, what if this team does it and makes a run the question has been, would that be funny or not? Or would that be like cursed?
I don't think it'd be funny, right?
It's like if Struber of all people went through and like made a postseason run, we were like, oh, that'd be kind of funny. Would that be kind of typical? And even earlier this season, some people online were joking that like this Leagues Cup thing seems so dumb. Like it seems dumb, just dumb enough that maybe we'll make a weird run and win it. Like that, you know. This one though, like I don't think it would be dumb or cursed for Troy Lissan to run it back here, run it up. Like it would just be weird.
No, right. That's like, it's not funny, but it's also not cursed.
It's not scary, just abnormal.
Well, it's like maybe it's normal almost in that it's you know, that's the issue we had.
It makes it feel like nothing has any meaning.
Yeah.
Who winning the cup would be normal? I don't know.
Cincinnati, St. Louis, something like that.
Seattle still good? What's up with Seattle?
They've been up and down.
Like LAFC winning again.
Oh,
Like whatever.
pop quiz. Who's second in the East right now? Would you guess?
Montreal.
Columbus.
No way.
Columbus is third.
Is it
Orlando.
It's Orlando of all teams. I guess if Philly wins their game in hand, they'll be second.
Where's Montreal? They're really bad.
They're spiraling.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was gonna say.
Yeah, wow, St. Louis still at the top. Incredible.
I don't know. I'm table watching these next few weeks. It's a little exciting. Getting into the final stretch here, you know.
Getting your hopes up just in time for a home draw against Chicago.
We need to find a promo game somewhere around the league where we can get you an MLS on Apple hat.
Yeah.
To go with your MLB Network hat.
I don't have an MLB Network hat.
Or wait, I'll give you my pro. I have an Apple on MLS jersey that I got for being in the Ivory Tower. So I'll let you have that. I'll give that.
No,
to
you need to wear those together.
Okay.
Like you have the full fit for the
MLB hat and the
MLS jersey.
Shirt.
Yeah.
God.
You have all the major
now
leagues.
I just need Zubaz like NFL Network pants
and like
NBA Network sneakers.
You need Major League Lacrosse socks or something, I think.
Disc golf. Club of America.
European Super League scarf.
Do you think there might be a warehouse of some never seen merch?
The merch
out there.
might be cool.
Yeah.
But
right. Anything else to add?
Well, let's go beat Chicago, right, Peaches?
Yeah, let's go.